Good afternoon, everybody. Chag Sukkot Sameach, also Shavua Tov, because it's the beginning of a new week. And welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm Rolene Marks, your host. And before we get into today's top stories, I'd like to take a moment just to explain to our viewers who maybe are not familiar why we have been on and off air. It is the Jewish festival of Sukkot, the Feast of the Tabernacles or Booths, and because it is a holy time for Jews around the world, and in the diaspora the first 2 days are observed. In Israel we only observe 1 day. Out of respect to our diaspora community, we have not been on air for the first 2 days and will probably not be on air for the last 2 days next week. So just to explain why we have been a little bit inconsistent to some of late, that is the reason. But let's take a look at top stories making the headlines in Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu today sent a formal request to Russian President Vladimir Putin to please pardon Naama Issachar, the young Israeli who has been sentenced to 7 years in prison for alleged drug smuggling. Naama was found with 9.6 ounces of marijuana in her bags en route from Russia back to Israel and was promptly arrested. And many, including the Prime Minister and the President, view her sentence as disproportionate to the crime. And just before the festival of Sukkot started, President Rivlin wrote his letter to Putin appealing for him to please free her and send her back to Israel, saying that Russia and Israel enjoy a great relationship. Putin is a great supporter of the Jewish people, and this really, the punishment doesn't support the crime. So we will see, and we will keep you updated if Prime Minister Netanyahu has had any luck with his request for clemency. In other major news, earlier today a story started to break from Israel Army Radio that Jordan had agreed to lengthen or re-sign the lease on a portion of land in the Tzofar region, which is the southern Arava region, along the border of both countries, as per the 1994 peace agreements between Jordan and Israel. Now, about a year ago, Jordan said that they would not be renewing this lease, which of course created quite a bit of tension between the two countries and a bit of anxiety for Israeli farmers who farm along these lands. So today's announcement by Israel Army Radio was seen as very, very welcome. However, the Jordanians deny any such reports that King Abdullah had agreed to lengthen or to agree to at least the Tzofar region being renewed. We will keep an eye on the story because it doesn't just affect the Tzofar region but other lands that have been agreed to during this lease agreement, which is part of the 1994 Peace Pact. In final news, while we are out of Israeli elections, and yes, we are still waiting a final government, we are still in the process of forming our government, but the presidential race in the United States is starting to heat up. And while President Trump, on behalf of the Republican Party, will be seeking a second term, there are various candidates within the Democratic Party who are vying for the primary and will face off against the president. One of these candidates is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is seen as highly critical of Israel, perhaps the most critical of Israel. And today, 3 members of the squad, Ilan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, formally endorsed Bernie Sanders as their candidate for the Democratic Party. This, of course, raises concerns for many pro-Israel activists and many people in the Jewish community who are concerned about Senator Sanders' stance on Israel. He has said that he will end financial aid to Israel because of the status of Jerusalem and because of the declaration of Jerusalem as Israel's capital by the current sitting president, a stance that both Tlaib and Omar have echoed, and we can't forget that these two rookie congresswomen have sought to introduce pro-BDS or pro-boycott stances towards Congress. So we will be watching the primaries with great interest to see just how far Bernie Sanders will go, and will he be the man to face off against Donald Trump. So these are the major stories making headlines in Israel today. Don't forget, we have major stories on our website at www.layoftheland.online. If you miss us on the air, no problems. You can catch either recaps and updates of the Israel Brief, which we post to our website, but other articles as well. And today we have another volume of the Arab Voice, which are articles by Arab journalists that you may not hear in other media, but you will hear here. You can also join our growing Facebook community. We are now over 600 likes and follows. So please join us wherever you are by liking us or following us and sharing our content. And you can also, wherever you are in the world, add your voice and support to the State of Israel by subscribing to the Israel Brief. We are also growing there, and every subscription, every share helps us get Israel's side of the story out to the general public. So we invite you to subscribe and share the Israel Brief. I'm Rolene Marks with today's top stories, and before we have another thunderstorm where I am in Modi'in, this is the time of the year where we hope for rain, and boy, the rain arrived with a vengeance yesterday, and we hope for more today, which is what we pray for and is sorely needed. So until tomorrow, shalom, le'traot.